Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into a really mysterious dinosaur from the Netherlands, late Cretaceous. It's called Betasuchus.
Yes, and it's quite special because, well, it's one of only two dinosaur genera ever named for the Netherlands,
Only two. Wow.
and the only non-avian theropod that's a meat eater from what's called the Maastrichtian beds. So, very end of the dinosaur era.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is to unpack what we actually know or think we know about Betasuchus based on the sources.
Exactly, and it's a great case study in how even, a single bone fragment can cause so much scientific discussion.
Yeah.
Decades of it.
Right. And our main source here is the Wikipedia page for Betasuchus. It lays out the discovery, the classification headaches, and all the ongoing debates.
It really does. Shows you how paleontology works. Fragments, interpretations, reinterpretations. It's a puzzle.
Okay, let's start with the discovery. The fossil itself. It's a partial right femur, the thigh bone.
That's the holotype, yes.
Yeah.
NHM R42997 is its current number. About 31 centimeters long. Found near Maastricht.
And how it was found is interesting, too. Not a formal dig.
No, not at all. Quarry workers at St. Petersburg stumbled upon it sometime between, 1820 and 1860. A big window.
And then it was acquired by a Dutch biologist, Jacob Gijsbertus Samuel van Breda.
Right. And because it came from quarry workers, we lose that precise context. We don't know the exact spot or the exact layer within the Maastrichtian it came from.
That's a bit frustrating.
It is a common issue with older finds. But we know the Maastrichtian formation itself dates to the very, very end of the Cretaceous, like 67, 66 million years ago, right before the asteroid.
And the bone itself had a rough time getting out.
Yeah, it was damaged. Cut cleanly in two, actually, about 8 centimeters missing from the bottom end because the chalk block it was in was sawed through.
Ouch.
And there's more saw damage on the head of the femur, too. It's not ideal, but lucky it survived it all.
So Van Breda had it in his personal collection?
And after he died in 1867, his collection, including this bone, was sold to the British Museum of Natural History in London, now the Natural History Museum.
Okay, fast forward a bit. 1883, Harry Seeley looks at this bone.
Yes, and Seeley decides it's a new species of Megalosaurus.
Uh,
She calls it Megalosaurus bredae, honoring Van Breda.
Megalosaurus. That's a name a lot of people recognize.
Definitely. And this was a big deal at the time. Embridae became the first actual land vertebrate named from those Maastrichtian layers. Put the Netherlands on the dinosaur map, so to speak.
But that classification didn't stick forever, did it?
No, definitely not. By 1926, Friedrich von Huene was taking a closer look. And he was skeptical about it being Megalosaurus.
Why was that?
Well, von Huene pointed out that Megalosaurus by then had become what paleontologists call a waste bin taxon.
A waste bin? What does that mean?
It means, back in the day, if they found bits of a large carnivorous dinosaur they weren't sure about.
He just tossed it into Megalosaurus.
Pretty much, yeah. Became a dumping ground for all sorts of unrelated theropods. So, von Huene suspected this Dutch femur wasn't a true Megalosaurus.
But what did he think it was?
He thought it looked more like an ornithomimosaur. The ostrich-like dinosaurs, lighter build, probably fast runners.
Okay.
He provisionally called it Ornithomimidorum genus B. He'd already called another species genus A.
Ornithomimidorum. That sounds complicated.
It's not actually a valid genus name. It's Latin, the genitive plural of Ornithomimidae, the family name. So he was basically saying genus B of the ornithomimids,
Yeah.
clearly pointing towards that group.
I see. And then he gave it a proper name.
He did in 1932. He formally named it Betasuchus, which he translated as bee crocodile.
Bee crocodile. Why crocodile?
That's a bit strange, isn't it? The beta probably refers back to his genus B idea, the suchus, crocodile part. Maybe just a general term for reptile or reflecting the uncertainty. It's a little unclear, honestly.
So we have Betasuchus, but the identity crisis wasn't over yet.
Not even close. In 1972, Dale Russell weighed in. He agreed it had ornithomimosaur affinities, some similarities.
Okay, so leaning towards von Huene's idea.
Sort of, but Russell thought the name Betasuchus itself was a nomen vanum.
A what?
Nomen vanum. It means like a vain or invalid name. He argued the renaming wasn't done correctly according to the rules of scientific naming, and we should maybe stick with Megalosaurus bredae.
Oh, the naming rules, right.
They can get complicated, so some people continue to use Embridae.
Then, jump to 1990, David Norman lists Megalosaurus bredae as a nomen dubium.
Right, a doubtful name, which is different. Norman was essentially saying the fossil fragment is too incomplete or lacks unique enough features to be confidently assigned to any group, or to be sure if other fossils belong to the same species.
So basically, we can't really be sure what this is based on this bone alone.
Exactly.
Too ambiguous.
But then, just a year later, 1991, the plot thickens considerably.
It really does. Jean Leloup and Eric Buffetot came along with a completely different interpretation. They looked at the femur and concluded it was actually a small abelisaurid.
A bellisaurid, like Carnotaurus. Much stockier predators, right?
Yeah.
Very different from ornithomimids.
Totally different, and they had specific reasons based on the bone's anatomy.
What did they see? Well, they pointed to things like a narrower femoral neck that's the bit connecting the shaft to the ball joint. The head didn't seem to point as far forward. There was no little hole, a foramen, under the lesser trochanter.
Okay, these are quite technical details.
They are, but they're the kind of details paleontologists use. They also noted a narrower front face of the bone, and crucially, a developing crest near the bottom end that looked similar to one on Carnotaurus.
And they specifically argued against the ornithomimosaur idea.
Yes, strongly. They pointed to the position of the fourth trochanter, another bump on the femur where muscles attach. They said it was positioned much higher up than you'd see in ornithomids.
Wow. So based on these subtle features, they're proposing a whole different branch of the theropod family tree.
Precisely. It was a major shift in thinking about Betasuchus.
But wait, there's more.
Always more. In 1997, another study comes out. Carpenter, Russell, and Baird. They suggest another possibility.
Don't tell me.
They linked Betasuchus to Dryptosaurus.
Tryptosaurus, what's that related to?
Dryptosaurus is considered a tyrannosauroid, so related, albeit distantly, to T-Rex.
Seriously. Ornithomimosaur, a bellisaurid, now tyrannosauroid. This poor femur.
I know. It really highlights just how difficult it can be to classify dinosaurs from fragmentary remains. Different researchers focus on different features or interpret them differently.
And just to make it even more tangled, that dinosaur Leloup and Buffetot compared it to Tarascosaurus.
Ah, yes, the potential abelisaurid relative from France.
Well, in 2004, Tchaikovsky and Rowe actually placed Tarascosaurus itself within the broader group Abelisauridae.
Right, so even the classification of the dinosaurs Betasuchus is being compared to is evolving. It's a constantly shifting landscape.
Despite all this confusion about what it was, do we have any idea how big it was?
We do have an estimate. A 2017 study suggested a length of about 4 meters.
So around 13 feet. A medium-sized predator, then.
Seems likely, yeah. Whatever group it belonged to, it wasn't enormous, but certainly not tiny either.
But nailing down those exact relationships, as we've seen, is really tough with just the one incomplete bone.
It's extremely tough.
Still, its importance isn't just about classification, right? It's about where and when it was found.
Absolutely. Finding any dinosaur remains from the Maastrichtian of the Netherlands is significant. This is that critical window right before the KPG extinction event that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs.
So it gives us a tiny peek into life in Europe just before the end.
A very valuable, if blurry, peek. Every little piece helps build that picture.
Maybe let's quickly run through the formal classification again, just to see where the uncertainty lies.
Sure. So, domain Eukaryota, kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, all standard. Then clade Dinosauria, clade Saurischia, the lizard-hip dinosaurs. Then clade Theropoda, the meat-eaters.
Okay, still fairly solid ground there.
Then it gets shaky. The source material tentatively places it deeper within Theropoda, under Ceratosauria, Neoceratosauria, and then superfamily Abelisauridae.
Following the Leloup and Buffetot idea.
Exactly, but acknowledging the other interpretations exist. And finally, genus Betasuchus. So that's one possible path through the classification maze.
And thinking about the bigger picture, you mentioned Europe at the end of the Cretaceous.
Right. There's a 2015 paper by Chiquisava and others that talks about late Cretaceous Europe being essentially an archipelago, a collection of islands.
Not one big continent.
No. And that island geography can lead to unique evolutionary pressures. Island dwarfism, or sometimes gigantism, and just different evolutionary paths due to isolation.
So Betasuchus might have been part of some unique European island fauna.
It's very possible. Which makes classifying it based on comparisons to dinosaurs from, say, North America or Gondwana even more challenging. It could be something quite distinct.
Okay, so let's try and summarize this complex story. Betasuchus, known from just one partial femur from the Netherlands.
Found by quarry workers, damaged, sold, eventually named Megalosaurus burdi.
Then renamed Betasuchus, thought maybe to be an ornithomimosaur.
Then maybe an abelisaurid.
Then possibly a tyrannosaurid.
With debates about whether the names were even valid.
It's quite a journey for one bone.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it perfectly demonstrates the scientific process in paleontology. It's not always clear-cut. New evidence, new analyses lead to revised ideas. It's ongoing.
But even with the uncertainty, it's a crucial fossil, a rare glimpse into the dinosaurs of the Netherlands right at the end of their time.
Absolutely vital for understanding that specific time and place in Europe's prehistory.
Makes you appreciate the work that goes into studying these fragments.
Definitely. The level of detail they try to extract is incredible.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener. How does this puzzle, this single bone called Betasuchus, change how we think about dinosaur diversity in Europe just before the lights went out?
Yeah, and what other fragments, what other clues might still be buried in those Dutch rocks? Could the next discovery completely rewrite the story of Betasuchus yet again? It's a fascinating thought. The search definitely continues.